Good evening everyone, and here is a collection of British post-war armour from the early 1960s onwards, probably sort of circa 1965, maybe 67. The Chieftain did have a bit of a gestation period. So what do we have here? Well, we have a D'Agostini Amacom Altea Diecast Chieftain Mk.3. This one has been nicely weathered by whoever did the weathering, really nice. This is a diecast kit. You can get these quite easily off eBay. This is a Mk.3. This is a recently arrived Mk.9 from S and S Models. S and S Models is one of my favourite small suppliers because they do lots of engineering equipment. They are a small resin producer. They do lots of nice kit, and I think that their Chieftain is one of the nicest tanks they've done. So well done to Sean and Stuart. This is a Chieftain Mark 11 with thermal observation and gunnery system, again from S and S Models. This is a trumpeter, British Challenger 1 MBT, which I still need to build, and a trumpeter Challenger 2 in the basic fit, marked up as an Oilum vehicle, recently acquired, a bit like Ukraine. Oilums are a bit like my Ukraine, NATO sponsored, getting lots of hand-me-downs. Now, interestingly, and we'll come on to this, there are some differences in scale. So they're all 1 in 72nd, but the Altea one is a little bit smaller than the S and S model one. The S and S models actually are more in scale with the trumpeter ones, because the Chieftain was a big tank, it wasn't a small tank. So expect that Altea have based an element of their castings on the old 1 in 76 kit, and then kind of just missed a little bit of upscaling, but it's not a major issue. They're pretty much barrel lengths are the same. Now there may be a few bits I need to add. I might need to add a machine gun here onto the Mk.9, which would be the ranging machine gun, but I need to check if it had it, because it probably may have lost it at that point. So let's talk about the differences. So the Chieftain was a really well armoured tank. It also had a nice low profile. The driver sat semi-reclining, pretty much reclining. Well designed, thick turret armour, thick hull armour. Not so much on the side, but you've got these side skirts here. The main issue was the engine. The engine went through a number of programs to get it reliable, or at least to improve the reliability. So the programs were Sundance and Totem Pole, and gradually until the 1980s the Chieftain engines were reworked, piston rings reworked, piston seals reworked, and that was designed to improve reliability. So the Mk.3 is notable because you've got the ranging machine gun here, and you've not got a muzzle reference sensor on the end of the barrel, and you've not got a laser rangefinder. You've got the infrared white light searchlight here. Great as long as the enemy doesn't have the same viewing equipment. If they do, every time you use the infrared, you're projecting a beam which they can see. If you use white light, you're projecting a white light beam that they can see for miles. Chieftain had a 120mm main gun, a very effective main gun. Two-part ammunition, split ammunition. The ammunition was stored around the hull and the turret in various storage bins. When these do get hit, you can see some bailouts, such as in the Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s, but eventually the tank does brew up. So the Mk.3, Mk.3P was the one supplied to Iran. Now, an interesting what if is, what if Israel had adopted these? Well, I think the main concern of the Israelis was the engine, quite rightly a reliability concern, and I think the British government was concerned at that point in not escalating things with the Arab nations, having sold them to Iran. Various political factors, Israel didn't get them, and probably just as well because of the reliability of the engines in the desert. the engine was a multi-fuel engine, a British Leyland product, and at that time British Leyland were having massive quality control problems. Shame really, because the tank itself in the armour triangle, firepower, armour excellent, mobility and reliability of the engine not so good. If it broke down in the right place, the saying was it was the best tank in NATO. I strongly agree. When you look at the armour levels between this and the M60 and this and the Leopard has no armour at all. The M60 is a more balanced tank because it has a decent engine, but the Chieftain has more firepower. So overall, and I think you've all said in the poll, this is the best NATO tank of the Cold War. I'd strongly agree, except for that engine. Now let's come on to the Mark 9. So Mark 5 here, the Agostini Altea diecast. You've got the MBC pack at the back, single MBC pack. Like I said, no muzzle reference sensor on the bow. The Mark 9, you get the muzzle reference sensor here. I've not painted this yet. I'm just doing a bit of filling and letting that dry. And you also get a laser rangefinder, which is this box here. You've still got the infrared white light searchlight, and you get an improved MBC pack at the rear. So the MBC pack has been strengthened and enlarged. It's nice that they've cast in the camouflage nets on this S and S model. So the laser rangefinder and the muzzle reference sensor, of which this is the piece here and this is a piece here. What this does is this allows far more accuracy, because before then you're using a ranging machine gun to pin rounds off the target and then put your main round on. This does away with all of that, so it doesn't alert the enemy, and whoever shoots first in tank-to-tank combat and is on target gets the kill normally. So the Chieftain Mark 9 is an improvement in terms of gunnery, but it's not an improvement in terms of night fighting. You've still not got a decent night fighting capability. The night fighting capability comes along with the Mark 11, which has got the TOGS, the thermal observation and gunnery system. Now, I may be wrong, but I think the Mark 10 is the Chieftain here with the addition of the Still Brew passive armor around the turret here. Now it should have some extra armor plates here, which for some reason S and S have missed, but it should have a little bit of plates there. So it has some plates here to stop rounds going into the turret ring, and that's different to the Mark 9. But most importantly, it's got this passive Still Brew armor, as it's called, which goes on the turret front, massively improving the protection of the tank against the latest and then Soviet rounds. You've still got the muzzle reference sensor, you've still got the laser rangefinder, but the biggest addition is the thermal observation and gunnery system, which is the same as is what is fitted to the Challenger 1. You can see the box there, it's just on a different side, and that vastly improves the Chieftain Mark 11. That gives it the opportunity to fight at night. Then you go from here to the Chieftain 900, kind of designed for the Shah of Iran, but never made it because of the revolution, to the Challenger 1, and of course this is a Challenger in the Gulf War, which has got improved armour and the thermal observation and gunnery system. Now the Chieftains were upgraded because they needed to at that time upgrade them because the Soviet threat was still there. However, very quickly after they upgraded them all, these never went to the Gulf because the regiments that were sent were all equipped to Challenger 1. The fall of the Soviet Union happened, and Challenger 2 then was kind of coming into service, or at least on the cards. Didn't make it for a while afterwards, a few years afterwards at least, but the army could then draw down in what it needed to. So I think the last combat deployment for the Challenger 1 was actually to Bosnia, and then I think the Challenger 2 did Kosovo. I might be wrong on that, but around that time, 1998, these entered service. So I think these were out in 1994 to 1996 at latest, and then the Challenger 2 1998. Now the Challenger 2 is interesting, because in a way the Chieftain leads directly onto Challenger 1, which is kind of an improved Chieftain but with the Chobham armour. And the Challenger 2 is actually really the tank that the British Army wanted, because it has a vastly improved powertrain over Challenger 1. So you can kind of see these as evolutionary vehicles, and each one has evolved from the earliest model of the Chieftain to a mid model, sort of early 1980s, late 70s, late 80s, and you've got pictures of them. I've got pictures of them in exercise in Germany in about 1989 to the early 90s. Very quickly phased out. Lots of them are in museums. And then you've got the evolution into the Challenger 1, not very reliable at first, and then into the Challenger 2, which has a lot more reliability and a lot more capability. I won't talk about the way the ammunition is stored on the Challenger 2 for obvious reasons. The Challenger 2's main armament is improved, really, in terms of armament from the earliest Chieftains. You're just looking at an evolution through the Challenger 1, and then when you get to Challenger 2, that's when you get a new gun, but same split ammunition. So a lot of people are talking about whether they should send Chieftain to Ukraine. Honestly, no. Really bad idea. First bad idea is, whilst you had the Sundance and Totem Pole modification programs, the Chieftain was never the most reliable weapons system in terms of its engine. So if you are sending them to Ukraine, well, actually, why bother when you've got Challenger 2, which is reliable? The other thing is, and this is why I'm very keen that we don't think that you can just send any piece of armour to Ukraine, is even the Stillbrew has armour on the front which is now obsolete, compared to the Dorchester armour on the Challenger 2, which is again better than the Chobham armour on the Challenger 1. Now, these have been destroyed in Ukraine, but the crews have pretty much got out. The Chieftain doesn't have a lot of side protection, so essentially you're sending a machine which is going to become a coffin. And whilst a tank may be better than no tank, actually, do I think it's right to send mobile coffins? No, in my opinion, I don't. You've still got the underlying engine issues which haven't been resolved. They were only resolved on the Challenger 1, which of course got a much better engine, and were only really resolved on the Challenger 2. So whilst the frontal armour of this might be better than the Mark 5 and the Mark 9, the side armour is exactly the same and it's not improved. Whereas the side armour on the Challenger 2, up to this point in the turret, is better, and the frontal armour and the frontal turret armour is better. So personally, if you're going to send anything, send Challenger 2s. Take care. Goodbye.